Guess who's kicking off 2024 on a gloomy note? Xi Jinping. Every year he gives a speech on New Year's Eve, usually filled with positives. But yesterday's speech was an exception. The Chinese president made a rare admission. He said China's economy is not doing well.
Some companies are facing operating pressure. Some people are encountering difficulties in employment and living conditions. And natural disasters such as floods, typhoons and earthquakes have occurred in some places. All of these things concern me greatly. Some enterprises had a tough time. Some people had difficulty finding jobs and meeting basic needs. All these remain at the forefront of my mind.
Now, Xi Jinping rarely talks about China's troubles openly. And look at the timing of these remarks. Chinese censors are suppressing all negative news. It hasn't helped though. The firewalls have been breached. There is an endless stream of bad news in China. Even on the day of Xi Jinping's speech, there were more troubling updates. A survey was published. It revealed the state of Chinese factories and they're not doing well. Factory activity in China has declined. It has dropped to a 6-month low. Do you know what that means? It means manufacturing is weak. There is less demand and business for Chinese factories has slowed. What about exports? In December 2023, there was an uptick, but it wasn't good enough. Exports increased by just 0.5%, which is as good as nothing. And these are signs of trouble. Trouble that is difficult to hide and almost impossible to ignore now. The Chinese are feeling this slowdown. There are reports of protests. Let me show you some numbers. By November 2023, there were over 1,700 protests in China, 1,700, all of them linked to the property sector. 2/3 of the protests were against builders, real estate companies. Protesters were unhappy because of delays, contract violations, fraud and shoddy work. The other set of protesters were construction workers. They haven't been paid for months in some cases. Most of these agitations were held in public places like the sales office of the developer or a local government office. That's where they protested. People showed up with banners. They raised their voice. In some cases, they left after a few hours. In others, they stayed put for the whole day, refusing to budge until they got some kind of assurance. Do you know why this is noteworthy? Because public protests are not common in China, and thousands of them even more so. This is a sign of widespread discontent and a warning to the Communist Party of China. The party does not like being challenged or questioned. Perhaps that is why Xi Jinping was forced to speak about the economic troubles. And look at the choice of words. Referring to China's troubles, the president said, and I'm quoting, "All these remain at the forefront of my mind." This is meant to be a word of reassurance that he's thinking about it. That's what Xi Jinping is telling his people, that he's thinking about the economy. What he's not telling them is, how will he fix it? And while the economy may be on the forefront of his mind, as he puts it, it's not the only thing. There's Taiwan too. It goes to polls in a few days from now, and the Chinese president had this message for Taipei.
祖国统一是历史必然。
The reunification of the motherland is a historical inevitability. Compatriots on both sides of the Taiwan Strait should be bound by a common sense of purpose and share in the glory of the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation.
Reunification with Taiwan is inevitable, he says. Now, Xi Jinping has used this word before, inevitable. What's different this time is the tone, sharper compared to last year. In his last speech, Xi referred to the Taiwanese as, and I'm quoting, members of the same family. This time he was more confrontational. He's using words like compatriots and historical inevitability. He said, and I'm quoting again, China will surely be reunified. And that's his ultimate goal, reunification, a goal so important that he's willing to use force for it. So this statement is like a not so subtle reminder for Taipei. They go to polls on the 13th of January, and China is saying that this election in Taiwan is a choice between war and peace. It has doubled down on the pressure tactics. It has tried to meddle in the Taiwan election. The threats are likely to continue, but will the result lead to a war? Xi Jinping has not given a timeline. As of today, he's not looking to pick a fight with the US, because if he attacks Taiwan, the US is going to get involved. He had a message for Joe Biden too. He's willing to work with the American president. So in this case, his tone is conciliatory, and it makes sense. Xi Jinping needs to revive the economy of China before picking up a fight, but he will keep Taiwan on tenterhooks.